Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to All Effed Up with Will. If you powered through the first episode, awesome. I appreciate it because I know it's probably a lot to keep up with, but, here we go. We made it to episode number 2, which is just mind blowing because I know that I rambled on a lot in that first episode, but you know what? We touched on all kinds of subjects. We touched on, heartbreak. We touched on, you know, shitty friends for the most part. We touched on just a little bit of everything, basically the root of all my fucking problems. But here we go. This is the second episode of All Effed Up. Welcome, everybody, and I just want to say thank you if you powered through and made it to this episode. And before we get started, talking about all the fun subjects of the miserable aspects of life, I just want to say a special thank you to my friend Tony Becker. He mixed up that tune for me that you heard in the intro and the outro of the last episode. He's a very talented guy. He did that in less than a couple of days. So I just want to say thanks, Tony. It means a lot. So thanks again, man. I hope everyone is doing well. I am currently trying to get through the remaining weeks or months of winter, whatever it may turn out to be, and I am rather fucking sick of it. I cannot stand the cold. I don't want to be here. So it's just a matter of time before my head explodes. But in the meantime, just trying to get through it, just trying to make it to the summer months because I'm dying to get back outside. I told myself this year that I'm going to get outside more because, being stuck inside or just voluntarily staying inside all the goddamn time is no good for yourself. And so I made a promise to myself that I am going to get outside. I am going to walk some trails. I'm going to try to get myself back into some form of shape that is not round. I've got to do it for me. I've got to do it for my kids because my kids, as they get older, are going to expect me to get up off my ass and do some running around with them, and I am in terrible shape. I wish I could be back in the shape that I was, 14, 15 years ago, but it's just, it's a matter of working on it again. So hopefully we can get to that point. But, today I just wanted to, talk about toxic relationships because God knows I've had a lot of them. And I kick myself in the ass for it, for never realizing it at the time, but a lot of people don't. You don't realize that you're being taken advantage of. You don't realize that people are just having you around at times that are convenient for them, which, I experienced romantically, I experienced in friendships, and with family, unfortunately. I have, certain family members that I don't speak to anymore just because of difference of opinion, just the way we see things. Sorry for that ding, that was my phone. But as I was saying, having all these toxic relationships throughout my life of varying degrees has been, obviously pretty fucking damaging on different levels. I've always had trust issues. For a while there, it was okay, but then things went to hell with a lot of different aspects of life. You have what you thought were friends that you could trust, but more than anything. And, I know it happens. I know that people change or they just aren't who you thought they were. And, that's a part of growing up, unfortunately. When you're in your teens and stuff, it's easier because a lot of what you do with your friends, you all have the common interests. Plus, when you're younger, you just don't have certain things weighing you down, and the friendships just come naturally. That's how it was for me, anyways. It just you wanted to be around these people just because they put you in a good mood. And that's how it was for a lot of years. I mean, I would disappear from home for, days at a time. But my mom knew where I was. She knew that I was hanging out with these guys. And sure, it wasn't all innocent. We'd get into trouble and, cause trouble and be running around with girls or whatever the case may be. And that's just how it was. And it was a great experience while it lasted. But like I said, as you get older, those friends may get influenced by other friends that they meet, or they just don't see things the way that they used to. I mean, a lot of different stuff can come into play. It's, or just things can happen in life and it throws everything off where they just aren't the same person that they used to be. And, I understand that can happen. Certain life events can just kind of fuck everything up. And that was the case with me where there was loss and it just changed people. But, that's just how it is sometimes. And through that loss, it just kind of sent the friendships to hell. And that's just, after so many years of, there were certain times where I kick myself in the ass because I think back to these times where I wish I would have walked away or I wish I would have said something. And it's just funny because, these people are supposed to be your friends or whatever the case may be. And the second you stick up for yourself, they just give you this look of how dare you stick up for yourself, you son of a bitch. But it's at that point that I learned in my time anyways that it was time to call it, because I turned my back on these people just because it wasn't working anymore. And it sucked. It did. It kind of tore me up there for a while because these were guys that I counted on for a lot. I feel like, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I feel like a lot of my strength came from my friendships with these people because they pushed me to do things that I never would have done, or pushed me to talk to people, whatever it was. And after they were gone, it's like, a part of me was gone where I kind of reverted back to my natural state of being a total introvert, where I didn't want to go out and do anything. I was a social drinker at the time. Sure, it was kind of overload, but that went to hell. And, I still drank on occasion, but sometimes, admittedly, some of it was to kind of distract me from my own thoughts, or because that's what we did those last few years, was just hang out and party all the time. And that was just the way we socialized with people. That was what we did when we hung out. And that's how we had a good time, as you do when you hit your 20s. But after that was all said and done, it was it wasn't the same. There was a time where I tried to reconcile with at least, well, a couple of them, but it didn't feel the same as it was. It felt forced, and it was not the same anymore, and I knew it. And so I turned my back and walked away again. And it's been a few years now. We hit that point where I had no idea what was going on in their lives. One of them had a kid and I had no idea. Or the thing that really pissed me off and just kind of made me realize that it was done and over with was one of them I'd been friends with since I was a kid, and he didn't even ask me to be in his wedding. When that really hurt, basically. That really fucking that was a rough spot. And I didn't understand why, when we had all these years of friendship between us, but that was just the way it was. it was over and it was done. And to this day, I've let it go. We don't talk. We don't or anything like that. And it's a bummer that it all worked out that way. But I understand as you get older, people change and things change. And I don't wish them any ill will. I wish them the best. I hope they're succeeding in life. I hope they're happy. And that's just, that's the best that I can hope for them, that they're at least happy in life, because I know it's been rough in one way or the other for everybody. And, growing up has not been easy. There's been a lot of loss, and there's been disagreements and petty fights and just dumb shit that should have never happened in the first place, especially what I believe to have been some of the best friendships I've ever had in my life. But it happens, and all I can say is I hope they're doing well, and I hope they're happy in life, because especially in this world today, that just it is harder than hell to be happy, for a multitude of reasons. But to kind of go in the other direction, I've also experienced a lot of toxicity in my romantic life, because when I was younger, I was the hopeless romantic type. I was in some ways a dumb shit. I would be there to be a crying shoulder, and I look back on it now and I think, what a dumb bastard. But you know, that's just who I was back then. This was while I was still in high school. I had crushes and shit, but I never had my first heartbreak. Like I talked about in the last episode, until I was 19. But I was that type. I was the hopeless romantic. I would be there to listen to these girls' problems that I was friends with. And yeah, of course, as it does happen, I was friend zoned by a couple of them that I actually liked, and you know, it was whatever. That's just the way it worked out. And they're, as far as I know, they're all happy in relationships now, and that's all you can hope for anybody. But I was I was that type of guy where these girls would come to me and ask me for advice about a guy. I'm just like, really, you're gonna come to me with this? And I was straight up telling that whoever it was, it didn't fucking matter. But there was a few cases where I just told him, that guy's a piece of shit. You shouldn't date him. He's gonna treat you like shit. But lo and behold, they fucking date him anyways. But that's just the way it was when you're the fucking sweet best friend, which unfortunately I was for a lot of years. It was just a way for these girls to basically put me on the back burner and, you know, wait for a time that was more suitable for them to have me around. Or better yet, my favorite thing was, I'd eventually get to a point where I was dating girls I knew were out of my fucking league, but why not? You dated them because they're hot. And, you don't think you're ever going to get these types of chances again. And, as you would expect, it doesn't last long. And then not long after that, they're dating just some random guy, because throughout a lot of my romantic endeavors, I was the stepping stone or the second choice. And they start to date these guys, and, you're still in that point where you're kind of mourning the relationship and you're trying anything you can do to get it back or get them to understand your point of view or whatever the case may be. And, I've got some of the best fucking, responses or excuses that I'd ever heard in my fucking life. Some of them to this day, I just don't understand. Like, I had a girl tell me once, they're dating this guy because they remind me of you. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? It's like, that's some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Why don't you just tell me that you're dating someone you think is better than me? It's like when you're a kid and you're outside playing some games or whatever, and you try not to get hit in the face with a wiffle ball bat. You see it coming, you don't avoid it, and you still get fucking hit in the face, and you just think, I deserve this. It's fucking laughable, and, you look back years later at it and you're just like, that was really stupid. I should have just been like, okay, whatever, I'm out, and just walked away. But being the hopeless romantic that I was, up until I got my real first heartbreak, I doted on these girls that would never, and they would never really give me the time of day, or they would just lead me on, as a lot of girls did throughout my life, particularly in my younger years. And then, after high school, even graduation night, it changed for me. I won't go into details about it, but like, it was from that night on, for about 4 or 5 year stretch where the tables had fucking turned, where I could be the douchebag and just go from girl to girl. But that's not particularly healthy either. But it was my late teens and 20s that kind of defined everything, and just kind of, I guess, set me up to be the person I am now, where I guess I was supposed to go through that heartbreak, that big one that I talked about, where it just kind of changed my outlook on relationships. And the funny thing is, too, this girl that ended things with me, I don't know if it was out of pity, or maybe her way of keeping me on the back burner, or, just whatever it was, keep me around for whatever reasons. She would, occasionally contact me through social media, as they do. And, I didn't see this girl for years and years. And actually, I told her at one point, I can't be friends with you because it's just ruining my fucking life, basically. And, she didn't take that well. She told me to go fuck off or something like that. But then years passed, and I see her at a concert, and I hadn't seen her in years, and, all that hatred or whatever maybe had fizzled out. And, she spots me out of the crowd. I didn't even see her. And I'm with my wife, so it's just fucking awkward as shit to begin with. But, I kind of do my best to ignore her or not really engage in conversation with her, just because it's awkward and it's inappropriate. But I, go about my business, enjoy the show, go home, and then like 2 days later, she messages me on Facebook wanting to try to be friends again. And I just straight up told her, it's been 15 years, and even though I'm married and everything, our relationship just completely changed how I feel about relationships. Yes, I'm happily married, and I have a great wife. She's given me 2 wonderful kids, and I'm very grateful and undeserving in my opinion, but she'll argue to that. But she wanted to be friends, and I just straight up told her it's not an option. That door is closed. It's just not, more or less, it's just not appropriate to have you around as a friend anymore, just because of the damage you did to me. And, it wasn't completely her fault. She was just a dumb kid. We both were. And, she at least did, apologize for, kind of fucking me over there. But anyway, that's that story. And, the toxic relationships continue on. I mean, everyone's probably got toxic family members. I especially do. I have some, I won't mention names or anything like that, but there's just some that I cannot have a relationship with, just because of what I believe is how differently we were raised. I got extended family, and I have some immediate family that I cannot speak to. I cannot have a relationship with them because they bring the worst out of me. And, a recent memory that comes to mind is, this one particular family member. I tried for years and years to have a relationship with him, but he just, his attitude towards everything, just, it brought out the worst of me, because I don't like getting angry. I don't like screaming, especially in front of my kids, and that just pissed me off more, because he got under my skin one day and just, it just went to shit real quick, and I screamed at him and told him to get the fuck out of my house. And I hate that happened in front of my kids because I have a lot of trauma from when I was younger from a lot of screaming going on in my household. And I think it set off some PTSD where I felt so guilty for yelling in front of my children like that. Even though it was not directed towards them in any way. It's just I never wanted them to witness anything like that like I did when I was younger because it can fucking traumatize you. There were years where I had nothing but nightmares from just the screaming going on or the altercations that would sometimes occur in the house. And that definitely contributed to all the anxiety I feel as an adult, where I have a lot of trouble speaking up, or I have a lot of trouble, socializing or being around new people, especially, I don't, like I said earlier, where I was drawing from my friends for their strength. For a lot of years, they had my best interest at heart. But after after that was gone, and, my wife, she does the best that she can. She has my back. She is in my corner for sure. But it's different because you lose that camaraderie with the guys after you get older or things just go to shit. And going back to these toxic relationships with certain family members, it's it makes you kind of cynical because I tried for years and years with other parts of the family that had issues. I tried to have relationships. I tried to be civil around them, but because of the way some of them were, it just got to a point where I had to make the decision that they were not worth being around. They were not worth having a relationship with because, like I said, they brought out the worst in me. There's certain aspects of my personality I don't like. I have in my past, not often, but been known to get a little hostile, and it's not something that I'm proud of. I don't like raising my voice because it just makes me feel like shit, and like I said, it sets off that PTSD from when I was a kid. And it was these things and these experiences where I like I said, I had to make that decision where they couldn't be a part of my life. They couldn't be a part of my kids' lives because of how they acted. And one thing that just really irritated me was, you got some people, like I said earlier, that just poke and poke at you until you stand up for yourself, and then you're the asshole. You're the you're the asshole for standing up for yourself or talking to them like that when they have done it repeatedly for sometimes years. And it's just something I never understood. But they have that, they want to play the victim and they want to see you as the enemy, and that's just the way they want to fucking play the game. So I had no choice but to exile these people from my life, more or less. And it sucks because they are my family, but family or not, you got to earn my respect, and they just weren't willing to do that. And they were just these people that you absolutely had to watch what you said around them because they would just completely take it the wrong way and just look at you like you are offending them just by being in the room. And it was just not worth it after a lot of years of trying, and I just got to the point where I was just done. And the one thing that a lot of these relationships had, whether they were romantic, whether they were family or friends, the one thing that they had in common, and the one thing that, looking back years later, that made me want to, kick myself in the ass or whatever, is that between all of them, I had become an option. I was not, they were not keeping my best interests at heart anymore. I had realized, it took me longer than I'd care to admit, but with all these relationships, I just became something of an option and, not anything that they really cared about anymore for whatever reason. And I got to that point, and it was just like, if I have to beg you for your time, then I hit that and I was like, I'm done. I cannot do this. I will not do this to myself. And ever since I really realized that, especially, just realizing that I had to beg these people just for any of their time or for any of their attention, I have not looked back. And I guess that's one thing about my mental health that I have conquered somewhat is, I realized that I was more or less just being used by these people whenever they felt convenient. And I had finally got to the point where I was done and I was not going to let it happen anymore. And also the funny thing about when you reach that point where you're not going to take people's shit anymore and you're not going to be taken advantage of, you see how quickly people disappear. You get to where you have maybe two of, a couple of friends left where at one point you thought you had half a dozen or sometimes more. And especially with, it was with family too, it's the same situation. You realize once you are done taking shit from anyone, these people are just gone because they realize they can't get anything out of you anymore and they're not going to try, which, is what you're going for because you shouldn't be taking advantage like that. No one should fucking take advantage of you and measure you for what they can get out of you, especially family, but it does happen, unfortunately, and it's just something that we have to live with. Like I said, I got these family members that I don't speak to anymore, and I don't care to ever really speak to ever again because I know they will never change. They kind of display this, anytime, because there are still certain other members of the family that they still speak to, and they still, in my opinion, talk out of their ass. And it just goes to show that they will never ever change. They always look at you like you're wrong. They're the victim, and that's just the way it's going to be. I can say one thing though, that even though after years and years of this type of abuse from every type of relationship I've had in my life, that the one thing I can take from it is I can now say that I am better than that. I don't deserve that shit, and nobody does. You don't deserve to have people walk all over you and just assume you're weak because you're a nice person. And that was and is a big problem that I still kind of face in my life. It's because I'm a nice guy that they think they can just fucking take whatever they want from me, and there not be any consequences. But that's not it at all. I I got past these other relationships, and I come to this more or less this epiphany where you know your worth after you've been through this kind of stuff, and you know that you don't have to take it. And that's why, even though it was a difficult decision on on all fronts, that I probably will never have a relationship with these people, whether they're family or old friends. It's just because their attitude and their view on things just got too much to handle. Where I could just not do it anymore to myself. And obviously, that's the good thing, where you finally get to that point where you can, even with all the anxieties that I have, and the daily battles that I still have with little bouts of depression, or just where you get down on yourself, I can look at these examples of these relationships and be like, at least I know that I am better than that. I am better than being walked on. I am better than being taken advantage of, just because I don't go out of my way to make your life miserable like you have done to me, or I've seen you do to other people. So, at least I've been able to take that much from it. And all I can hope is anyone that listens to this, anyone that I might know, you take from my experiences and my stories where, some of you might have been there for some of these experiences where you take them from them and you learn from them, or just realize that you're not alone by any means. There's a whole community of people that have been through all kinds of shit like this that still have their daily battles and their daily affirmations where they got to remind themselves that they're worth every bit as much as anybody else, and there's no reason not to be here. And we all gotta stick together for the most part, and we all gotta just get through it together, and we just gotta do what we can to get by, because everyone's battle is different, everyone's story is different. But I mean, you always see these things out there where just doing something nice for someone can just change their whole fucking day, where they might wake up. I definitely have. I've woken up and just like, you're just like, no, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to leave this room. But you go out in the world, and if someone, they don't even have to go out of their way. They just do something nice for you. Hold the door open. Just help you out. Say something nice to you, and it just changes your whole outlook on the day. And that's just all we can really do for each other. But yeah, here we are. We've made it through another episode, which I'm really surprised at. I didn't think I would be able to get through the first episode because of all the things I've talked about. But if you listened and you want to keep listening, I will still put out the episodes. I will put them out as long as I can, obviously, because it would be great for this to go somewhere. And just, but if not, if someone can take something from these stories and just get through another day, that's all we can really hope for. But I hope you're all doing well, and I will check in with you next time. This has been All Effed Up with Will, and I will talk to you later.